Now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the ranking member, and I'd like to associate myself with the opening comments of the ranking member, and I would like to pursue some of what she said. By the way, I welcome you to the committee, Mr. Secretary. I have before me, Mr. Secretary, an article styled, "The Top 25 Hedge Fund Managers Earn More Than All the 500 Top CEOs Together." The first paragraph reads, "The best chance of becoming super rich is to be one of the highest paid hedge fund managers, or masters of the universe, as it said here. In 2010, the top 25 hedge fund managers combined earned roughly 4 times, some things bear repeating, roughly 4 times as much as all of the 500 CEOs at the top of the 500 giant corporations that make up the S&P 500 index." And then it indicates that the average pay of these 25 hedge fund managers was $134 million in 2002 and peaked at over $1 billion in 2007. Now if we go down to paragraph number 7 quickly. Okay, this one I find quite interesting. It talks about the poverty among managers of law firms. It reads, and I quote, "The poverty in the higher ranks of law firm partners is striking. The average profit per partner was just $1.6 million in 2010. I would call to your attention 2007 when a hedge fund manager made over $3 billion. By the way, I don't begrudge any of these people for making the money that they make. Hedge fund manager made over $3 billion. That's a lot of money, and it's difficult to get your mind around it. That's about $400 per second. It would take a minimum wage worker to make the $3 billion 198,000 years. 198,000 years. Which brings me to my question. Speculative income is taxed at a lower rate than ordinary income. Are there policies that we should review such that this type of inequality does not continue to expand, because the chasm between the poor partners at law firms who are only making $1.6 million and the super rich hedge fund managers has to be dealt with? What policies could we implement, if you can tell me quickly, to deal with this?
Congressman, I think the President spoke at great length to this question of inequality just the other day. It is a deep, deep problem. I don't think, frankly, the poverty of the attorneys you're talking about is what he was focusing on, but it was the challenges of minimum wage workers who work full-time, who don't break through the poverty line and can't support their families. So I think we have to ask different questions of what can we do to provide opportunity for people to rise to middle class? How do we make sure people who work full-time have a middle-class income? And things like raising the minimum wage are part of that. Things like what the action taken at the beginning of this year, where the top tax rate went back to where it was before the tax cuts of 2001, 2003 is part of it. But we have a lot more work to do. And we fundamentally have to focus on building a growing economy that's creating jobs that have good salaries and good middle-class opportunities. That's where the growth in our country is going to come from.
Let me intercede
just
quickly, and I appreciate your answer. Would you agree that ordinary income is taxed at a higher rate than speculative income?
Well, earned and unearned income are taxed differently, and I have over the years thought that we have to look at that as a question of whether we have it in the right place. Raising the top rate was part of it, and as we go through individual tax reform, we ought to be asking these kinds of questions.
Generally speaking, and this is in a very general sense, speculative income is taxed at roughly around 15%. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
And ordinary income, which secretaries make, Probably your ordinary income is around 35%, is that correct?
Correct.
So these minimum wage workers who work full-time and live below the poverty line, something has to be done, Mr.
So,
Lew, and I appreciate your
I think we have to have a tax system that encourages investment. We have to have a tax system that encourages people to work. And I think we have a lot more work to do.
Time of the gentleman has
Thank you,
expired.
Mr.
The